Hello, you're listening to A Conversation With, the podcast where each week I'm joined by a different guest and we have a conversation on a topic of their choice. My name is Jason, and joining me this week, coming all the way from Australia and from the Fantastic Fools podcast, is our guest. So please, introduce yourself.
G'day guys, my name is James. As I said, all the way from Australia. I've got my own podcast called Fantastic Fools. I talk about movies and TV shows and things like that, but going to digress a little bit today and talk about a bit of a weird element of Australian culture, which I feel like needs to be more acknowledged overseas and maybe even taken up overseas. So we'll see how we go.
Oh, what a bit of sizzle there. So we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. I love that you started with good day, just to fuel the stereotypes. We need them.
Stereotype yourself straight away. And it's the thing, all Australians do it. When we go overseas, we become 90% more Australian.
Even if it's just your voice going overseas on a podcast.
Absolutely. You got to set that record straight.
Brilliant. Sort of hinted at your topic. Do you want to let us know exactly what it is?
Cool. So, you can probably read from the episode title, but topic this week, I'm going to talk about the democracy sausage, which is kind of an Australian election tradition. And it's more than just a sausage sizzle. There's a lot of kind of cultural elements around it. I think it's a really fantastic and fun part of Australian culture. So I'm going to talk about that today.
So this is going to be really interesting because I feel like I know next to nothing about this topic. I listen to quite a few Australian podcasts, so I've heard it mentioned. So I'm sort of aware of the concept. But, considering I don't listen to any political podcasts, it's incredible that I've heard it mentioned. It's I've never
added that far into everything we're talking about. Yeah.
So please, because probably 90%, if not 100% of the listeners, unless you decide to listen back to this episode, have no idea what you're talking about. So please explain, what is the democracy sausage?
So essentially, in Australia, when we go to vote, at almost every voting centre around the country, after you go in to vote, which might be at, I don't know where you vote in England, but here it's at, primary schools or public halls or things like that. There will almost always be a sausage sizzle outside with sausages and bread and maybe onions and maybe a cake stall anyway. And it's essentially a massive cultural tradition that after you've voted, you buy a sausage. Some of them are free, some of them are gold coin donation, and enjoy it and celebrate that you've partaken in democracy and you've contributed to the future of this country, and celebrate with a sausage. So
why is this such a big it seems so strange on the surface. It's like a sausage. Why? So what is it about this that really caught the hearts of the Australians?
Sausage sizzles are a huge cultural thing here in Australia. I don't know why. I think it's just because everyone's got a barbecue and everyone loves doing it. Like, there's this big hardware chain in Australia called Bunnings. That's our number one hardware chain. But what they do is every weekend they have a big sausage sizzle out the front, and people go to the hardware store just to get sausages for $1, and don't go and buy any products or anything. It's a weird cultural phenomenon. And just kind of has caught on and become a big part of the kind of election conversation whenever it does come up.
Do you feel that's the motivation for the majority of people to go and vote? Is it just the idea of a sausage?
Yeah, well, voting in Australia is compulsory.
Oh, really?
So it is one of few countries in the world, and I was doing some research. I think it is the only English-speaking country in the world where voting is compulsory. It's one of very few in the world. So you get, I think it's $150 fine if you don't vote. So you go in, they tick your name off, and unless you have like a medical certificate or something, you're in a bit of trouble if you don't go. So everyone in the country does have to go and vote. We vote on a Saturday, so everyone's kind of free and has got the opportunity to do it. So, it's something that dominates the entire culture. It's not 60% of people are going and voting today. It's not 100% of people. Well, close enough to. I think it was 92 at the latest election. 92% of people in the country are going to vote today. And then because almost all of them are then having a sausage, that makes the conversation huge and makes it big.
Oh, wow. I never knew that about Australia, so I've learned something new.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that the sausage sizzle is something it's interesting because Australian culture, I feel like the culture is very stereotyped. People kind of have an idea, and it is things like, well, everybody's building a deck. There's always a barbecue on the go.
Yep.
And they don't know how to say hello. They always say good day. And
Absolutely.
we've been speaking for about 5 minutes, and it seems that it's completely true.
Well, that's the thing. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but we are probably one of the very, very few countries in the world with a positive stereotype. Like if you think of the stereotypical Australian, in a lot of ways it's kind of a positive stereotype. You know, they're laid back, they're funny, they're relaxed and things like that. It's a thing that kind of we're almost proud of us. Like if you think of a stereotypical American, a lot of people would think, you know, oh, they're fat, or oh, they're, you know, very patriotic or something like that. Whereas Australia, we've got that really, really strong cultural stereotype that I think a lot of people enjoy, that we kind of have that opinion of ourselves overseas. So we try and promote that as much as we can.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. It's definitely a good stereotype to have. We should look into maybe getting a better British one. That might help.
Yeah, workshop it. Get a marketing agent on your case.
Yeah. So when did it begin, this this sausage sizzle, with regards to the democracy sausage, you said, isn't it? So linking these two things together, do you know when that sort of started?
So it goes way, way back. There's kind of footage and photographs of people having sausages, or written in newspapers, people having sausages way back to the kind of the 18th century. There's images of like our Prime Minister in the 1980s doing things like that. But it's probably really only been in the last 10 years where the phenomenon's kind of been given a name, and the online kind of presence has really helped it. Especially the 2016 election, which is our last whole country election. That's kind of where it really took off as, you know, it was a thing that everyone always did. Everyone always went to vote and had a sausage, but it didn't really have a name or an identity as such until fairly recently.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it was just kind of an underground thing, and now suddenly it's a cultural phenomenon. So, well.
Yeah, well, I think it was something that always happened, and then we realised recently how proud we should be of it, for things like that.
Yeah, I suppose it makes it a bit more fun, especially if the alternative is a $150 fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a way to have the... So you sort of mentioned that maybe there's onions, maybe there's, I'm guessing, some kind of sauces or condiments and things. What is, for you, the best way to have this sausage?
For me, it's got to be the classic sausage and bread. I'm not an onion man, personally. I know a lot of people who are. Got to have it diagonally across the bread, the square bread.
Diagonally across the bread?
Yeah, it folds in
Really?
nicely when you fold it in half. If you've got it horizontally, it kind of pokes out either end too much. It's just a nightmare. It's the mark of an amateur barbecuer. But diagonally is the way to go, I reckon. I smother on the tomato sauce. My dad's a barbecue sauce man, but there's a few different kind of things and ways to go about it.
Yeah, really, you've blown my mind with the diagonal sausage. I'd never... Because I think generally here...
That's just how we do it.
See, we don't usually have bread at barbecues. We have like baps or buns, or, you know, hot dog buns, sort of rolls, purpose built for the sausage. The idea is going,
well, that's the thing. It seems to be incongruous, but it works. There's actually a great story about the 2016 election, which I was briefly mentioning.
Yeah.
The opposition leader, Bill Shorten, when he went to go vote, he obviously had a sausage, and there was footage of him, and they did actually serve him in buns, so in hot dog style buns, and he bit into his sausage, his hot dog style sausage, horizontally, like from the middle, and it like went nuts on Twitter, and there was like angry vitriol surrounding him, calling him un-Australian for biting into his sausage horizontally.
Amazing. Oh, see, that's
and he did not win the election.
Do you think it was because he didn't know how to eat a sausage?
I think it's got to be the leading cause. People have got to look into it.
Yeah, if you can't eat a sausage, how can you run a country? That's a country that runs predominantly on sausages, by the sounds of it. Yeah. So it's I want to go back to then. You were mentioning before, like the hardware stores. Was it Bunnings? Did you say?
Bunnings, yes. Yeah. Bunnings warehouses.
So they're like, you're going there just to get a sausage. This was what I understood from what you said.
Well, the thing it kind of combines well with another Australian thing of sport, is that every kid, not like every kid, I mean a lot of kids play sport on a Saturday morning, or, you know, a lot of people around my age, you know, play for their local club as well. And, you know, Saturday morning sport finishes, it's 11:30 in the morning, you've just had a big run around, you're hungry, driving past the hardware store and grabbing a sausage is a very good way to go for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, so it just seems like such such an odd thing to link together. This idea of politics and food and sausages and things like that. But why not? I mean,
yeah, it's become a very, very important marketing image, I guess, for politicians to, in America, you see that those iconic images of Barack Obama putting his vote in or something like that.
Yeah.
In Australia, you do have that as well, but the other iconic image is the politician at the polling booth manning the barbecue or something like that, which you see all the time and across all the newspapers and social media and things like that. It's really become kind of a thing that they lean into and they realize it's important to kind of seem relatable, I guess.
Yeah. So if you had to take that picture of Barack Obama voting and putting in his ballot, which food would you Photoshop in to be like, well, this is what the Americans should do after each election? The sausage has been taken. What would you give them?
It's got to be a burger, doesn't it?
It's got to be a burger. I was thinking
either a massive
well.
burger or just a gun. Can you eat guns? I don't.
Well, you can if you put it diagonally in the bread. Then it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess.
So there's actually been
a few
things set up. So at the most recent election, the 2016 one, there was this website set up specifically to look into democracy sausages and kind of what they are and where you can go. So there are actual websites where it has a map of Australia. It has every single voting booth and place you can go, and it has a little icon as to whether there's a sausages or whether there's a cake store or everything to do with that. And these websites just sprung up out of nowhere. They were huge around the time. So if you go to electionsausages.com.au, you can go to the map and you can have a look at every single polling booth in the country and work out where there is a barbecue going. The good thing is, like I said, these these voting booths are primary schools or local halls or community centres or things like that. So, and since everyone's going to vote, there are thousands and thousands of people going through these areas who, normally wouldn't get that many people passing through. It's a fantastic fundraising opportunity. So a lot of really good organisations kind of throw their hands in and go, okay, let's, raise money to, save the local library or something by having the thousands of people who pass through here pay $2 to grab themselves a sausage or two. So people do get into it, and it kind of does get a charity edge to it in some places.
Oh, it's nice to hear that it's helping charities. It's not just big sausage that is coming out on top because of this.
Oh, I think they'd be very happy with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just trying to think how many. We get like because in England the way barbecues work is they are very last minute. You can't plan a barbecue. But I'm thinking that normally you'll get a call from someone. They're like, "Hey guys, we've got a rare day of sunshine. Quickly, we're having a barbecue." So you kind of have to run to the supermarket, and you can't find any meat because everybody's had the same good idea that, oh look, we've got a bit of sun, let's have a barbecue. So the idea of the amount of sausages they must need to do this kind of everybody's having a barbecue on the same day is
at the most recent election, the federal election in 2016. So democracysausage.org recorded 2,301 polling booths as having sausage sizzles, whilst electionsausagesizzle.com.au had 2,094. But both that's over 1/3 of the total polling booths, and that's just what they had recorded. There could very well have been a lot more that they didn't have, so that's a lot.
It is amazing that I don't know what's more amazing. That they've actually got all this information, that there are this many people setting up, or that there's two websites that are reporting this.
Yeah, there are two just listed here, but I think there's probably dozens more.
Yeah, it's so strange. For me, for you, probably the most normal thing on the planet. You mentioned a couple of times cake stores as well, like cake stands. What kind of cakes do you get then on election day? Okay, so back there we had a few technical difficulties, but I'm starting to know how Will Anderson and Charlie Clausen feel when they're trying to record every episode using Australian. Yeah. I hear that Australian.
Our internet's famously terrible, yeah.
Yeah, so great sausages, but terrible internet. So just
absolutely abysmal, yeah.
A peek behind the curtain, guys. I asked him a question. There was an incredibly long pause. I thought it was really thinking about the answer to this question, it turns out the connection just died. So technology always letting us down. I will ask the question again. That was, you'd mentioned about these cake stands, cake stalls that are there.
Yep.
So you've kind of got the option of sausage, or there's also these cakes. I would love to know what kind of cakes are available, because anybody who listened to, I think, both the food episode I did and the living abroad episode, I famously condemned Italian desserts, and my problem is they don't have good cakes. So I'm really interested to know what kind of cakes are available in Australia.
Well, the great thing about the cake stores that do pop up, which aren't as common, they're probably about half as many as half the ones that have sausages probably have cake stores. The great thing is they try and work in the politicians' names into the names of the cakes somehow.
Oh, wow.
Which results in a few very funny little creations.
Yeah. So what did you get this?
So if you like, I can give you a few politicians' names, and then I'll follow it up.
Yeah, brilliant.
Cool. So a politician from the Labor Party is called Anthony Albanese.
Right.
And, so a couple of stores around the country ran Anthony Albert cheesecakes.
Nice. Okay, I can see it.
Malcolm Turnbull. Malcolm Turnbull is our Prime Minister. So there was Malcolm Turnovers and Malcolm Turnballs all around the country.
Right.
One senator was called Jackie Lampy. She's quit now, but she was kind of a very outspoken public figure. But Jackie Lambingtons were a massive thing. Lamingtons being a very, very big Australian dessert.
Okay, I have never heard of it.
Oh, they're delicious. Absolutely. I have just balls of coconut. They're fantastic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I forgot that they haven't made their ways overseas, but they're fantastic. Definitely.
I mean, they might have.
If you ever do come over here, try a Lamington.
Yeah, I'll add it to my list. But it's a long way to go.
One, the leader of the Green Party in Australia is called Richard D. Natale. So my favourite one out of this was the one place that offered Richard D. Nutella fudge cakes.
Oh wow! Was that your favourite because of the incredible pun, or because you like fudge cake?
That was my favourite pun. Yeah. So it's good. Everyone kind of gets in the spirit. The politicians themselves were kind of tweeting out the fun ones they saw when they went out as well. It was kind of very funny.
What would your cake be if you were ever to run for office?
Well, I've got Ing in my surname, so I think the Lamington would once again be the way to go, and they'd be able to work around that one there.
Yeah, well, so you said it was
not personally a cake store person.
No, it's only the sausage for you then. And here's a good one for our English or let's say European listeners, because obviously everyone listening would assume that with your sausage you are going to be drinking a nice, refreshing, cold beer. And of course, because you're Australian, the beer that you'll be drinking is Foster's. Am I right?
You are very much not right. I don't think I've ever seen a Foster's.
Yeah, I've heard this a lot. This is
you have to go
again one of the things that I've picked up.
You have to go way back in the back room of the bottle shop. Maybe even ask specifically for it. If you're going to have it, it's almost entirely sold overseas.
It's amazing because here it is like even in the adverts, everybody's sort of Australian. It's so pushed as being the Australian beer, and then to be honest, I don't drink a lot of beer anyway. Again, due to my life abroad, I started drinking wine and tend to lean towards that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
I'm kind of similar, but anything above $10 for wine is too much for me.
This is my big problem of living in Italy and then moving back to the UK, because the tax on alcohol is so much that I can't help but compare. Well. You're like, I'm paying this much for this bottle, but I used to buy that for half the price, a third of the price, a quarter of the price. So it's ruined me for coffee, for wine. Just can't buy these things anymore. They're all too expensive. But you were saying that like the sausage, you're saying it's like $1 for a sausage before.
$1 or $2. So normally it's a gold coin donation.
And that's Australian dollars, which are less than American dollars. Am I right in thinking that?
So I think Australian dollar at the moment I think is buying 70 or 80 US cents.
Yeah, so that sounds incredibly cheap.
Yeah, I mean it's not too bad. There's there's this great article here I'm reading. It's from a website called Pedestrian TV. It's called How to Pull the Most Out of Your Election Day Democracy Sausage. It's kind of a guide, a how-to. And their opinion on cost is this is directly from the article. Gold coin, no excuses, no variations, nothing. Gold coin, by the way, so all our coins are silver apart from the $1 and $2 coins, which are gold. And then they wrote, maybe, and I stress maybe, $3 for a snag is acceptable, but only if it's like a fancy butcher's sausage with herbs and cheese. Only the good gear is worth that much money. Anything else, $2. That's directly quoting from the article. So it's definitely the gold coin's the way to go for the Australian sausage, and charging extra for the sauce will get you taken out of the country.
Oh, really? Yeah. Is that something that happens in Australia, charging money for sauce?
Very, very rarely.
Yeah, because that was a very common trope.
Been deported for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I know. Border control is very strict on Australia, so makes sense.
They're doing their job. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep out those kind of people. That's
yeah. I think We've also got a gluten-free guide here on this same article. The question is, can I have gluten-free bread? And it's a yes or no. The question is, are you a celiac or do you have a medical reason to avoid gluten? If yes, enjoy your gluten-free bread. If no, then eat the bread like everyone else.
It is taken very seriously.
So you know what a gronk is?
Oh, no idea. You've got a lot of interesting vocabulary in Australia that hasn't quite made it over here.
Yeah, that's not one that has come across me. So,
is there any terminology we should know if we are in Australia and we're going to try and get our sausage? So you've mentioned the gold coin, which I'd never heard of before. So you're saying that's basically a $1 or $2 coin. So you have $1 and $2 as coins. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. We have pound coins and £2 coins. I was acting really surprised from it. I was going, really, you've got coins of $1, $2, but I've just realised we have £1 and £2 coins. So I'll get off my high horse right now. What's the lowest monetary value
5
coin?
cents.
Yeah, 5 cents. It's better than us.
We still 5 cent coins. Yeah.
We've still got 1 and 2 pennies.
5 tens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have them, but we got rid of them.
We should, because they just my son collects them. That's it. Just give them to him, and then because I think as well they've changed some things with the banks here. So like only children are allowed to take coins in to change them, or like business owners, but you can't just kind of go there with your pot of coins and say, hey, I'd like to change these, please. So having a child has its benefits, and one of them is being able to take copper coins into the bank. I'm just so surprised at how much we've been able to get out of this topic, because when you said to me...
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. There's one kind of last little nugget of information that I've been sitting on waiting to whip out,
all right.
Which is that which is a big thing about democracy sausages. It was in the running for the Australian Word of the Year in 2016, even though it's 2 words.
I was really just about to pull you up on that. So how can it be Word of the Year? It's 2 words. 2 words that already exist.
But the Australian National Dictionary Centre, there are a few different options. Third was the word shoey. You heard of that?
I feel like I have, but I'm not sure why. Again,
that's when you pour a beer into a shoe and drink it out of that.
I have, yeah. So when I say I have, I just want to clarify that I have heard of a shoey. I've not done it, and I don't think I ever will.
Yeah.
So that was what was the other options?
Also, what there was smashed avo, which is
avocado.
Smashed avocado, which is very much lives in the hipster cafes of Melbourne.
Yeah. Is that where you? So I didn't ask whereabouts you are in Australia.
So I'm in South Australia,
right?
Which is known infamously boring. South Australia. We have like 5 big festivals that come here in March, and the rest of the year there's just nothing on. It's good fun down here.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like it. You've really sold it to our listeners. So if you're looking to book a holiday to Australia, South Australia, that's the place to go. Apparently, 5 times in the year.
We've got the best wine in the country, mighty Barossa Valley.
Yeah, I think
maybe that took you fancy. And democracy sausage came out as number 1 in the Word of the Year competition, and got the nod in 2016. So the Australian 2016 Word of the Year, according to the National Dictionary Centre, was democracy sausage.
Amazing. I'd love now to know what the English word was. I'm sure it was terrible. But
yeah, we see people like put emojis as words of the year and things like that now as well.
There we go.
It's weird.
Yeah,
these dictionaries are just trying to get themselves Twitter followings, I think.
Yeah. How many? But I mean, probably more than me. So well done. Well, it's been very interesting hearing everything you have to say about democracy sausages. So now this is going to be really difficult because it's usually at this point that I like to flip the conversation around and let you ask me questions about your topic. And I realise I've really painted myself into a corner with this one because...
No worries at all. Before we do that, I've got one more story, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
This is from way back in 1989. So Peter Dowding was the Premier of Western Australia. He was actually accused of bribing voters by giving out free sausages and drinks a week before the state election. So the sausage actually has taken a bit of a controversial turn in 1989 in WA. Police investigated whether a free family sausage sizzle that was held breached the Australian Electoral Act. And then it turned out that his opposition, the Liberal leader Barry McKinnon, had been photographed during a campaign wearing a barbecue hat and apron. And Peter Dowding argued that McKinnon had been, in quotes, involved in the dissemination of sausages. And luckily nothing came of that legal battle, but it's been through a tumultuous history.
That is amazing. You can kind of imagine somebody like walking into an office with their briefcase and just sort of clipping open the briefcase, turning it around, and there's just some sausages inside. It's the I'm not sure that's how the kind of got to be very careful with the wording that I use here, but the
bribery.
Alleged, election fixing in certain countries. I've never heard of it happening with sausages. So, it's funny because it makes really light of such a serious problem. Like if there really was sort of tampering with elections, it's a really serious problem. Yeah. But for some reason, doing it with sausages just makes it seem
makes it funny. Yeah,
yeah.
The police eventually ruled that. Food and drink don't count as bribery. So that's a good thing. But I mean, most of the sausages was very unpartisan. A few times you might get, certain people with certain political parties setting up. Normally it's because it's for after you've voted. So it's, all the contests and all the challenges around the election are over. You just want to unite again as a people, and it brings us back together after we've been split by the election. So it's normally unpartisan.
Right, so you might not agree on who you're voting for, but you do agree that you want to have a sausage. That's sort of the
absolutely
the uniting factor at the end. Oh, it's really interesting. So so go ahead, ask me what I know about this topic. It's nothing.
I'm just wondering where you've been living, are there any kind of weird voting traditions that would be comparable in any way?
I'm probably the worst person to ask because I lived abroad for so long. So I had nothing to do. Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously, like, I was living in Italy where it's very sort of temperamental. The years I was living there was so many big changes within the governments, and obviously I was happily there as a guest of the country, so I had nothing to do with any of that, and I could just.
So did you vote when you were living overseas?
No.
Thing because if we go overseas, we have to. Because, like I said, everyone's got to vote.
So you've
got to go into the embassy and.
You've got to send your vote back. Interesting. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not compulsory here, and I'm just trying to think if they do anything. I think they probably offer like tea and coffee and stuff like that. Recently, I don't know if it's just because I moved away and then moved back after a long period of time, so I was more aware of it. But driving around where I live now, I'd noticed a lot of signs in people's gardens and like kind of
we don't have.
One or
I
another.
don't see any of that.
Yeah, I'd never seen that until I came back here. But I'm not from this city originally, so it might be that they've always been doing it here, and just where I lived, we didn't care enough. It surprised me.
I was actually, compulsory voting, I was just looking up. So it's most common kind of in South America, so Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Uruguay. They've all got compulsory voting. Belgium has compulsory voting. Ecuador, Luxembourg, and North Korea.
Compulsory that you're not allowed to vote, probably.
It's compulsory voting. Everyone over 17 is required to vote. However, only one candidate appears on the ballot.
There you go. Yeah, I always think it must be something like that. Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
I mean,
designed
that's
to track who and who isn't in the country.
Oh wow.
Basically, a census.
Yeah. Makes
Terrifying.
makes the idea of just going for a sausage sound a lot more pleasant, doesn't it? So it is interesting because you think of Australia as being such a laid back country. So it's quite funny that there is, I was aware of sort of different parts of South and Central America and Korea and places like that this was obviously something that was compulsory, but I just never really thought about Australian politics that much, to be honest with you. But I was probably the most surprised to find out that it's
Australian politics also is quite amusing because there's two other parties. There's the Labor Party, but in Australia, the Liberal Party is actually the Conservative right-wing party, which makes no sense and is very confusing when you try and discuss it. Another question: if you're going to have a barbecue or sausages, what's your condiment of choice? What do you put on yours?
So my son likes he's also like a barbecue sauce guy. Sauce guy. Barbecue sauce, small child.
Barbecue smalls.
Yeah. So we usually have that for him. Okay. I quite like the one thing I've seen a lot of people do is kind of mix sauces. So maybe some ketchup, some barbecue, and I can't deal with that. It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind which one. I'm happy to go for some ketchup on there, but just don't mix them. Just one or the other. Although if it's like a hot dog, then I'm going to go ketchup and mustard. That's my option for that. But I'll be honest with you, I like onion in there as well, and you don't.
Okay.
But I just find it. Yeah. But this whole time we've been talking, I can just think of this one. We've got one like pop-up sausage stand. It's right in the centre of Bath. If anybody's ever visiting Bath, it's a big tourist destination in the UK. And there is like one little kind of stand. It's there every single day, just selling sausages. But they are quite expensive compared to the $1 or $2 Australian dollars. I think they're about £3 or £4, which is quite a bit more. It's probably about $5 or $6 Australian dollars, I imagine. So for a sausage, and occasionally I've had one, and they don't fill you up. So you probably need to.
No, you've got to have. We would normally have at least two. Yeah, I was looking. £3 is. Sorry, I'm getting my little Google calculator out. Yeah, it's $5.30 Australian, which is you'd get taken out of the country.
Yeah.
We don't have the death penalty, but we might reintroduce it for anyone who charged $5 for a single sausage.
Well, probably what I'll have to do is go and speak to the guy and find out he might be Australian. He might just have been ejected from your country, and for this very reason, he decided just to set up the business model here.
Business model overseas.
Yeah. Well, it's been really nice speaking to you, James. Thank you very much for calling in. We really appreciate you having to set up the time difference. About 8 hours time difference between England and Australia. So we managed to work it out somehow. That was great. So we mentioned just at the very start of the podcast that you're from the Fantastic Fools podcast.
Yes.
Very quickly, did you want to tell us something about that?
Yeah, cool. So we each week I get a couple of mates in. We talk about all the movie and TV kind of news of the week, and then we'll do a special topic. So it might be the main release of the week, or we might go back and look at something from our childhoods or a special topic. A few weeks ago, we did an episode on the Thompson Tank Engine movie, which was just absolutely hilarious. We had a great deal of fun with that one there. So we're everywhere. Facebook's probably the best way to go. Just search Fantastic Fools to get us there. We've also got kind of a website where we post funny articles, or hopefully funny, and things like that. So would appreciate anyone who heads over to Fantastic Fools on Facebook and has a look.
Yep. So I will try and put all the links to the podcast and to the Facebook and the website in the description. So if you are interested in hearing some more from James and some ideas on or takes, Australian hot takes on pop culture, that would be a good place to go. If you want to listen to more of me, you can go to the website, A Conversation With Pod. gmail.com, and you can find our other episodes there. I've also got another podcast which I'm doing together with my wife, that is the Old New Adventures of Superman, where we're reviewing episode by episode the TV series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. So you can also go and check that one out as well. If you want to contact the show, you can do so by email, aconversationwithpod@gmail.com, or Twitter and Instagram. We are at ACW Pod. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.